Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Fret Success Guitar Show. This week I have another guitar instructor, Marlene Hutchinson. She's a guitar instructor, musician, author, producer, all sorts of things she does. I don't know how she has time for all these things, but she has her own structured course that she's been promoting and pushing, Learn to Play the Guitar in a Day, which is something that I'm quite excited to hear and learn more about. She's been featured on PBS, and she's apparently, by David Lusterman from Acoustic Guitar, is the Pied Piper of instructional guitar. So, hi, Marlene, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for inviting me to be on your podcast.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you. When I read about you and found you on LinkedIn, of all places, I thought I have to speak to her. I have to find out more about what she's talking about. And sounds like you've got an interesting story in terms of how you picked up the guitar maybe later than some people. So I'd like to dig into that history of how you even started in music, what enticed you into the whole crazy world that is music. So yeah.
Well, I was very fortunate as a child. Music was always a part of my life. My mother said that I was singing since I could make any kind of noise. So I've just always loved and gravitated toward music. When I was 7, I learned to play piano. So I started playing piano at that age. And in my school years, I also played clarinet, and I played that for several years. And so music was just always a component of my life, or felt like it. I mean, I don't remember a time in my life where I wasn't involved with music. As I got older, and college and career and family, I kind of veered a little bit away from music. I just found like I didn't have as much time to devote to music. But interestingly, in 2002, my New Year's resolution was to learn to play guitar. I just realized at that point, it was kind of like I had this epiphany, like, I just really want a musical instrument back in my life. I have 4 kids, so money was a little tight, and I thought, well, getting a piano would be natural because I already play, but it's just not really in the budget. So I thought, well, maybe I could do like guitar, maybe an inexpensive guitar, and just try it out and see if I like it. So that became my New Year's resolution. And luckily I followed through on my resolution and found a group lesson, did buy a starter inexpensive guitar, and started playing guitar. And I'll tell you what, from that very first strum, I was hooked. Hook, line, and sinker. I'm like, this is the most amazing instrument. I was hearing the Alleluia chorus. It's like, I love this. And I couldn't stop playing guitar. I played guitar all the time. And as I mentioned, I had 4 kids. So you can imagine I had plenty of time to practice. But
yeah,
I fit it in there. And what my instructor said, one of your best audiences are young kids. And one of my younger children was in kindergarten, was 5 years old. And I asked the teacher, can I come and play in your class? I'm just learning how to play guitar. And she said, yeah, sure. So I would go in and play for the kids. And then other teachers asked me to play. And I was also an elementary teacher. So I would substitute teach and bring my guitar in and play it, for my students when I was teaching school. And then I wangled my way into our church band, and then this big art festival that's local here in Southern California. And I kind of had performance playing guitar, ADD, if you will. I just wanted to play all the time. And within about a year, I had some people say, gee, you kind of picked it up quick, and I wish you could show me how to play. And I thought, well, maybe I could. So I started a program, and that's really how the evolution of me playing guitar started out.
That's cool. So your first gig was to kindergarten kids. So
yeah, yes.
Were they harsh? Were they quite harsh?
Oh no, they were so cute. I would walk in the door with my guitar case, and all of a sudden I was like a rock star to them. And it didn't matter what I played or how many bloopers I had. They just thought I was really cool, that I played guitar. I was even working on a couple songs at the time that were a little challenging because I was a beginner. And so I would stop the song and I'd say, okay, here, look, I'm going to do this chord and I want you to see how you do it. It's the C chord. And then I would shape the chord and play it because I couldn't move to it very fast. And they just thought it was part of my song.
Oh, that's cool. I've played to kids a couple of times, and I know what you mean. They're infatuated by everything that you do. It's really cool, and I think that's a point in time where they kind of need to be shown that the instrument is fun and they can use it to have a good time, rather than, I think sometimes kids are pushed down an instrument route too soon and they don't want to play it. So I think the way you went in and did it is probably a good way of introducing them and getting your first gig under your belt. I mean, wow.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't even think of it as a gig. I just thought, oh, I'm just going to show these kids and it gives me a chance to play guitar. And they're not judgmental, which I loved. And, the other group or audience that I also played for at that time were senior citizens. I had a great aunt that was, at the time, that was in an Alzheimer's facility. And so I would go there with my guitar. And it was amazing, the reaction people had. They were toe tapping, and it didn't matter if they knew the song or anything like that. They just loved music and were really connected and engaged with whatever I played. So it was pretty cool.
I enjoyed that as well. I did a stint in college when I was playing in jazz band, and we used to go every Christmas, and we'd go into retirement homes and play all the Christmas songs, live version, jazz versions. And you're right, it's so rewarding to play to people that are so not judgmental. They just love it, listen to it as music, and they just love someone coming and playing, and they appreciate that. So I completely relate to that. When you perform, is that something you do a lot now, or are you more teacher-based?
I used to perform a lot more. I'm much more teacher-based now. It's just the direction it's taken me. And I do love to perform. And whenever I get a chance to, I do. But I'm definitely more teacher-centric than performer.
So let's dig into more of that. In terms of your teaching methods, I'd love to find out the premise behind this learning guitar in a day, and maybe a quick snapshot as to what that involves and what's the story behind that.
Yeah, a great story behind that. I had been teaching private lessons. As I mentioned, I had some people that asked if I would show them how to play guitar. And, having a background in teaching elementary school, putting a program together was something in my wheelhouse. So I put a simple program together of the way I thought it would be easy for someone to learn and play instantly. Like when I first started out, the first chords I learned were C, G, D, and F. And, those were challenging to learn in the very beginning. And my mind said, those are kind of tough. And I had some background in music. So I'm thinking, let's do this a little easier. So that was kind of my mindset of the actual program that I teach. Mm-hmm. And I teach my private lesson program the same way I teach the Learn to Play Guitar Today. It's just I do it all in one day. It's kind of equivalent to 6 to 8 weeks of private lessons. So it's not a different program per se, but it's put together in one day. So I was teaching these private lessons, and then I started teaching group lessons. And I had some adults that came to me and said, I'd really love to learn how to play guitar, but I just don't think I can commit to weekly lessons. Is there any way you could put something together where I could just learn enough in a day to play? And I thought, well, I wonder if you can. So I put the program together for the one-day program, and I tried it out, had a couple of test audiences, and it was very well received, and people were shocked at how much they could learn in a day. Now, I always tell everyone, because I have a lot of naysayers that are like, there's no way you could learn to play guitar in a day. And I would say, well, it's really a matter of perspective. If you expect to be Eric Clapton in one day, I'm not. I'm not professing that that's what's going to happen, but you will learn simple chords, basic songs, easy strumming, and there's so much more that I put in the one-day program. But at the very minimum, you're learning some simple chords, easy strumming, simple songs. I mean, you could start playing for other people after the workshop. So it's kind of cool. And I think it's very surprising to people, A, how much they can learn, and B, how much I can pack in a day that they can actually absorb. So it's really a pretty neat opportunity to share guitar and get people launched.
I understand the premise, and learning guitar in a day is, well, it's kind of a good spin on just because I think guitar's intimidating for people, very intimidating in a lot of ways, and they don't know how to do it. And especially with the abundance of free YouTube tutorials and things, I think we need to get back to this focus of taking people from the basics so they have this kind of chunk to just at least get them on their way, get them through this initial bump, if you like, just to get them excited about it and just get them something that's not too hard to learn. Because I think just throwing scales at people straight away, a lot of teachers do that still, rather than just getting them some chords and getting them playing songs that they can relate to. I think that's such a powerful way of piping, if you like, the guitar. It's just really cool that that's what you've done. So you've actually been featured on PBS. What was that like? That sounds quite intimidating to me.
Well, I had seen, there was a guy that had been on PBS that did a piano program, kind of a learn piano quickly program. And I thought, gosh, if people want to see piano, maybe they'll want to see guitar. So I had filmed my workshop, the full 5-hour workshop. I had produced a film, a video of it, and I presented it to PBS, and they liked the idea. And so they said, yeah, we want to do it, and we want to do it as part of like their fundraising. So, like if you see on PBS the doo-wop singers, and then on the break they say, oh, if you love the doo-wop singers, you can donate to PBS and you can get their DVDs or videos or whatever they have available. So we worked out a program together where I would show people the very early part of my workshop with just a couple of simple chords and playing, but to show people, you can do this. It's not that hard. People say, oh, it's so hard to learn guitar, or I'm too old to learn guitar. And, that's what I try and take out of there is that whole fear factor. Like, you can do this. It's not that hard. Now, again, and I always tell people, full disclosure, you're not going to be Eric Clapton after one day. I know I sound repetitive, but just keep that in mind. You're going to be playing basic chords and simple patterns. But what I did with PBS is, so we shared that program as part of the program, and then people could donate to PBS and they would get my DVDs and books and things like that. So we put a package together to really help get people launched. And, interestingly, there was quite a lovely response to it, because I think there are a lot of people that have play guitar on their bucket list. And by the way, you can have a bucket list at 5 years old. I want to do this, or I want to do that. But a lot of people surprisingly have play guitar as something they've always either wanted to try or thought they could try or would be cool to try, but just, are intimidated about giving it a try. And so I think getting the program out there through PBS was such a wonderful opportunity to show people, doesn't matter what age you are, you can do it.
Having that platform, PBS, must be so powerful for you and your message. And I think that when people are learning such basic things, showing them in a very, very easy way that they can adopt it is really cool to see. And I think if there's more of that and more of big networks like that start to adopt these things, then we can start to push and get people through these things that they're struggling. When you get students, what are the most common people that come and approach you that want to learn the guitar, like in a day, want to start with these courses, these basic courses?
Yeah, for my workshops, it's designed for adults. I do have a modified version of it for younger people, but it's designed to teach adults. I have surprisingly all age groups from 18 to 82. I had someone who was 82 that came to my workshop one time, but really all ages. I do find a strong contingent of people in like the 40 to 65-year-old range, mainly people who either played guitar when they were younger and stopped playing and want to pick it back up again, or people who have always dreamed of playing guitar and thought they couldn't because either they were too old or it was too hard to do. So it's really pretty interesting because people are very surprised that, yes, they can do it. And, it's interesting, especially in the time we're in right now. A lot of people say, oh, I don't have time to learn to play guitar. And, now there's a lot of time as well. But I just have always believed that keeping it super simple, very basic, so people can start playing guitar right away will help people to get super excited about playing. I learned classically from a young child, in piano and clarinet, reading a staff of music and all of that, time signatures, that stuff. And it's not that it's not important. It is very important. It's something I go into later on. But to start out, it's pretty exciting to strum and start playing a song right away. It's very motivating. And so, I've even seen in my workshops, this one gal in particular I have in mind, she was strumming and she was trying to move back and forth from one chord to another. I had just given 2 chords at that point, and she's doing it. All of a sudden, she looks up at me with this aha moment, and she said, I get it. Oh, this works. Oh, wow, I can play. I mean, she just was so shocked and amazed. And, it's just pretty cool how possible it is, and to see people transform from feeling like they can't play to playing right away.
Yeah, no, you touched on a few awesome points there, really. I think getting people excited about guitar and getting them through that burden is what you're doing. And I don't think there's much more rewarding thing than seeing someone have that breakthrough moment and just seeing them have that click, because it happens. I mean, I've been through points where you're playing and something's hard and it's bothering you and you can't get through it, and then all of a sudden it just clicks and you're like, wow. But if you can do that at a very early stage, rather than, saying like a piano instance, sitting in front and just working through arpeggios, drills, and looking at music, I mean, that's not inspiring. That doesn't help people want to pick up the guitar and want to be part of the community that is guitar playing.
Right. Oh, I totally agree. And it's fun. I don't always see that aha moment during the workshop. Sometimes I'll get an email after or down the road, and someone will share an aha moment with me. But I had another fun one later in my one-day workshop. I also go over tablature and how to play tablature, because it's something I figure they're going to run into when they're looking at music and looking for songs. And so I had one workshop where a gentleman who has a PhD in mechanical engineering, and he was kind of struggling with the chords and how to do that. But when I got to tablature, he had an aha moment. He goes, oh, now this all makes sense to me, because his brain thought more linear. And so to have it laid out that way was really awesome for him. And he just picked that up right away, where someone might not pick up tablature right away and chords might be easier. So I try to introduce as many different sort of ideas and concepts about guitar, because in a workshop, I might have 50 people and they don't all think the same. They think differently. And so I try to make sure that I cover enough material that people get a basic understanding of all the basics.
Yeah, that's one of the hardest things when you're writing a course, I found, is that when you're teaching someone, it's easy to just quickly flip it. And if it's not working the way you're teaching them, to flip it in a different way and get it into a way that they can relate to it and understand it. So I think that's the advantage of having like a workshop environment where you're there with them working through it. And I still think that having a teacher, whether it's weekly, monthly, or having a workshop thing, I still think that's such a valuable part of learning. And I think some people are being moved away from that with all this kind of abundance of free content out there. And I think even if you check in with a guitar tutor every month or 6 months, just to check how you're doing and give you kind of a steer as to where you should be going, I think because everyone's so different, it's just so important to do that. And I think having a workshop, that's something that I've never looked into or done workshop type stuff, but it's something I might actually look into to try and help people that way.
Well, I also do private lessons, and one of my students, very, very busy executive, he's like, gosh, I'm so glad I have this weekly time that's set out. It's kind of like the gym. You have a program, you have maybe a workout buddy or whatever. You're motivated to stick with it. And I like, if possible, in that private lesson setting or that, where you're working with someone individually, to do it every week, because I'll introduce concepts and I really don't want my students to go 2 or 3 weeks before I see how they're doing with it. If I introduce, say, a picking pattern or a new strumming pattern or a bar chord, and they're having challenges with it, they're going to develop habits that aren't so great. And I want to catch those habits before they become, kind of a muscle memory for them. So, having that chance to do that. And in my workshops, sometimes I am able to follow up with people after, but in the workshop, I present a concept and then I stop and basically walk around. And when I have larger groups, I have assistants that come with me who are trained. And we walk around and make sure, their first finger is on the 4th string and the 2nd fret for that A, really making sure that, because people, will move their finger into one fret or the other without realizing it, or might not be on the right string, and then they're not going to get that great sound. And I'm just really motivated for people to not only learn to play guitar, but really feel good about the sound that they're able to make.
Yeah, I think it's an investment, isn't it? I mean, I know people sometimes struggle with weekly lessons in terms of financial, but if you're going to dive in and learn guitar, you have to set aside and do it properly. And I think getting that help, that kind of walkthrough help, is really important at the beginning of your playing. You can kind of back off when you get a few years down the road and have a less regular checkup and become more of a coach rather than a full-on teacher, if you like. So I think what you're saying is it's really important just to get those muscle memories in there and get it so you can subconsciously do things in the right way. I completely agree with you. It's definitely such an important thing. So I'm interested to hear a little bit about what kind of music you listen to and like guitarists that you like not really relate to, but are very inspired and pull your sort of content from.
My own personal taste is definitely singer-songwriter, 70s and 80s kind of stuff. I love the Eagles, Sheryl Crow, who else? Let's see, John Denver, Jim Croce, John Mayer. I mean, it kind of spans a little bit of time. And I'm not even limited to sort of those time frames, but those are some people that come to mind. But Paul Simon, I love Fleetwood Mac. Singer, songwriter kind of stuff is what I draw from personally and what I like to play. But when I teach to what people want to learn to play, because my concept in teaching is that, I can give you a song that I love to play, but if you don't really care for that song, you're not going to be super excited to work on it. So when I'm teaching people beyond that first day workshop, but when I'm teaching people, I like to find out what they're really excited about. And then I make sure we find versions of it that they can work on and get excited about. I just gave a song with some challenging stuff in it recently, or this week, to a student. And the verses were no problem for him, but the chorus had some more technical things in it. And he was super excited about it. And he loved the verses. And he called and left a message. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to take it at the time, but he said, okay, I've got the verses down. This song is so much fun, but the chorus, okay, now remind me again, what do I do on the, so having songs that excite you, I think for students is like the key to having them get better, because if they're excited about the song, they're going to play it. And for me, I know you start out with what's my personal taste. Those are my personal tastes. Like a dream song for me, I really wanted to learn how to play Hotel California, and I have achieved that dream, which is really fun. But, it took a while. That's not an easy song to play. So I think it's good for people to explore what their music style is and kind of understand that so they can sort of head in that direction.
I always ask people that when I always have a kickoff kind of chat with potential students, and the first thing I ask them is, right, what music, bands, what artists, what kind of music do you like? Because I'm going to teach you how to play those songs, and that's just the way we have to go about this. When I learned, I was going through scales and all sorts of stuff, and it did get a bit tiring, and it got to the point where I didn't really, I was quite young, like 13, and I didn't really want to go sometimes because I was just like, oh, I'm a bit bored of this. So I'd end up learning on the side on my own, learning songs that I wanted to play, and I've carried that through as a mantra. And I think having that perspective and that way of teaching is, I'm glad we align on that, Marlene, because that's so important, I find, to just make it relatable, make it exciting, and make it so that it makes it easier, doesn't it? When they're having to pick up a song and it's a prominent guitar piece that they've heard over and over again, even without knowing how to play it, they just can learn it a lot quicker. They just have it in their mind already, almost what the rhythm is and what the chord changes are. And it's almost there, and it's a lot easier to get them past that point.
Right. I think some people really focus on the mechanics of the song. What chord do I play, or what note do I play, or what strumming, or what picking, or, how do I do this? And, obviously a big component of music is the feeling and the sense of the music. And it's interesting to watch people go through that journey, because let's say they have a song they really love and you show them how to do all the mechanics of it and they work on it and they're liking it. But sometimes when they're first working on it, it's very mechanical. And then I strongly suggest, hey, music has a feeling too. It's not just the count. It's not just playing those chords or notes or strumming, whatever it is you're doing. There's a feel within the song. And so once they get the mechanics, I like to really encourage them to, I call it icing it, but adding your own flavor and feel to the song. I think that's really important too, like owning and having the confidence to do that.
Yeah, I think that comes from having the confidence to just, make mistakes, go through it, make mistakes, and just play and play, and don't worry about getting it exactly right initially. Keep it slow and get it right slow, and then start to speed it up. But I think there's too much pressure people put on themselves to make it exactly perfect all the time. And I think developing flair and just playing around on the guitar, slide your hand up and down the guitar, just get more natural around how it feels in your hand, and don't worry too much about the specific, intricacies of the technicalities, I think.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. I think human nature, and I think it gets stronger as you go on your journey in life. But I think as adults in particular, we tend to want to be perfect or close to perfect right at the onset of trying something new. And, whether it's you're worried about you're going to embarrass yourself or whatever. I mean, I tell people, embrace your bloopers. That's the time you're going to learn the most. That's when you're going to advance the most. I was working with somebody yesterday who, when she performs, sometimes when she has bloopers, will go, oh no, or make a face or whatever. And I'm like, you have to pretend like you meant for that to happen, and you just keep playing, right? Because people won't remember so much that you had a blooper, but they will remember if you go, oh no, whoops, I made a mistake.
Yeah, the amount of people that play live, professional musicians, screw up all the time, and it's the way they recover from that. So you need to go through that to be able to, mess up. If something happens on stage that isn't supposed to happen, and you go, oh God, how to react? It's being able to just jump back in and play it. And the only way to be able to learn from that is just by doing it and not being too harsh on yourself. I just find sometimes people are wanting to progress way too quickly and put too much pressure on. And I think sometimes that stops them picking the guitar up. So I think half the time when you're teaching someone is just bringing them back down to earth and just, just take your time. It's okay. We're not rushing. We're just getting it right, and we'll get there. Don't worry.
That is such an important thing. And you mentioned it a few minutes ago and again, and I want to hit on that too for anyone who's listening. When you're learning something, play it slow, play it like super slow, play it like you're barely moving through it, and then build up the speed of being able to play it, because you're right. You want to get down how to play it. I have a lot of people I know of a lot of people who want to play a song. They find the music, they are frustrated because they can't play it at the faster tempo that it's intended. And it's like, well, yeah, because you're still learning it. So slow it down, learn it, and then you can always speed things up. But if you start learning something, as you well know, as you start learning something and someone's playing it, trying to play it really fast, you're going to have a lot of bloopers and you're going to have a lot of errors and you're going to feel very frustrated. And it doesn't have to happen that way. And you can always make things faster, as you well know. So that's a really great thing. I'm glad you brought up, because I think it's, that's really, really important.
One thing I've started doing recently, I found a free, because I use, is it Guitar Tab Pro to do like lesson content to create like music that people can play along to. But there's a free software called Tute Guitar, and it's a little penguin app on it. It's quite cute. And what it is you can send these people Guitar Pro tabs. So I send them through at different speeds, so 30 BPM, 60 BPM, really slow. And it helps them kind of play along at a speed. I think getting people introduced to a rhythm and a metronome, not straight away, but as early as you kind of feel it's necessary. I find that's been helping students a lot by not just sitting and strumming along to tabs or chord sheets. They're actually having a rhythm kind of keep them in time, but making it slow and slow and slow, and say, right, I'm not sending you any faster ones until I can hear you play this, at this speed, perfect, without any kind of major errors.
That's awesome. That's a great way to do it. Yeah, I think people, especially, I have a lot of people who have never played an instrument and don't know anything about music, and that either attend my workshops or want to learn to play guitar privately. And, I keep that in mind. That's kind of what I keep in mind from the onset is I'm assuming they don't know anything. And so, introducing the concept that something can be played slower. People don't even realize, I can play it slower and I can play the same, value of notes. I mean, in my workshop, I explain very basically 4/4 time. And then, I say, also, you can play 4/4 time quickly, or you can play it slowly. And here's how it is quickly, and here's how it is slowly. But I'm not changing the 4/4. I'm just playing quickly or slowly with that same timing. And timing and time signatures and all that, I think you start to see people's eyes glass over as you begin to go into a lot of it. So keeping it simple, I love what you're doing, where you're saying, here, try it at 30 beats per minute or 50 beats per minute or whatever, tempo that you want them to start learning at. It's great, because people need to know and understand it is okay to play it slow.
Yeah, that's such a major hurdle. And I think that's half of our job as a guitar teacher, is to just slow people down and say, just slow down, calm down, it's okay. So I've seen from your website that you're a member of NAMM, and I watch these videos that come out every year of, gear-obsessed nerds flying in their droves to go and check out all the gear at the NAMM show. I'm never allowed to go because you have to be some kind of professional, but I see you're a member of NAMM, but I wondered what that was and what has that brought you?
Oh, NAMM is a phenomenal organization. It stands for the National Association of Music Merchants. And it's a member-based organization. You have to either be a retailer or a instrument company. So, for instance, in our world, it would include Martin and Taylor and Gibson and all the guitar manufacturers you can think of, string manufacturers. But it's not just limited to that. I mean, the show, if you go to the shows they have in January and July, although the July one right now is virtual. But at the shows, the manufacturers bring their newest, toys and instruments and whatever they have that has been developed to share it with the people who are retailers and going to be sharing it out there in the world. And so it's just a really great opportunity to the shows, at least, to see all the new and interesting guitars and strings. When I first went to the show, it's pretty overwhelming. Let me back up and say that. The one in Southern California in January, there's about 100,000 people that attend. There's about 5,000 manufacturers that exhibit there. So it's quite overwhelming, and it's a 4-day show. The first few years I went, I'd see everything, including pianos and drums, and I loved seeing all of it. But then I realized, it's hard to see every single thing, and I really want to make sure I focus on my business, which is guitar. And so what is new in the guitar world. And so I've really honed it down to focus on that. But it's really great at NAMM, and also throughout the year, the organization has classes and clinics and things about recording, or things about your retail business, or whatever, topics someone in the music industry might be interested in. They have live seminars, well, not live right now, but virtual seminars. And at the shows, they have a lot of classes and clinics and performances. So it's a chance to hear these new instruments performed by some amazing people. But, for me also, from a business perspective, it gives me the opportunity to talk with people at the companies and really help them to understand what I'm doing, so we can begin to work together. And so it's a really terrific networking opportunity in the business. And it's pretty it's pretty awesome. I've been a member for quite a few years now, and it's almost, to me too, it feels like a bit of a family reunion. I'll have a breakfast meeting with someone, or I'm walking down a hall of, the convention center, and I run into someone I know. And so it's really it's just a wonderful opportunity to be encased in the music world, and for me in particular, in the guitar world.
I'm always infatuated by when all these videos come out of new equipment and gear, and I'd love to go, and I keep thinking of ways that I can. So it's something on my list to try and get a part of. Marlene, it's been great to have you on the show. It's been really enlightening, and also just awesome to talk to another teacher about these sort of issues that people have, and your approaches, and how we're kind of synergized on a lot of it. So it's quite cool to listen to you speak about that.
Well, thank you. And I've really enjoyed being on the show with you and sharing our similarities and even different ways that we're doing things. I love it.
No, it's cool. Thanks so much and Marlene has her own podcast, so check that out. She has a website, Marlene's Music. It's definitely worth a look into her Learn to Play Guitar in a Day. If you're maybe thinking about picking up the guitar, it sounds like a great way to get into it. So it's been great to have you on. I just want to plug, I've put out a recent video on the tone knob on the guitar. It explains how it works, because I know a lot of people don't know even what it's for. They just kind of twiddle it and it changes the sound. So I've explained how it works and what to do with it, and it's on my YouTube channel. So Marlene, I hope you've got an inspirational track that you can play at the end of this episode. I'll let you take over and introduce that track.
Thank you. Again, thank you for inviting me to be a part of your podcast. It's just been a joy, and anytime I can share the guitar love and help people to launch and continue playing guitar, I'm thrilled. So this track you're going to hear is one that I wrote. It's an instrumental track, and it just felt happy and uplifting. And so I really love to play finger picking style. So that's what you're going to hear on this track. So thanks again. Play on.
Thanks, Marlene. Thank you so much. Thanks, guys.